Kshitij is all of 22, and he's already had investments from so many companies. He's just recently raised a $5 million run. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kshitij. I read that about you in the newspaper. And is actually, he's just creating so many waves in this world of space technology. So I'm so proud to have you with us here, Kshitij. Huge welcome to you. And thank you for taking time out. I know you've been extremely busy, but you've just been so nice. And I'm just so thankful for you to be here with us today. My
Okay.
next speaker for today. My next speaker for today is Krattiika. So Krattiika is actually an industrial product designer, and she has designed the lights for the International Space Station during one of her projects. She's also designed a space gym. Again, things which we will talk to her over a period of this entire webinar. But two people who have seen the Earth from an external perspective, which is why I'm so excited to have you as well with me, Krattiika. Thank you so much. And I know you
Thank
hate
you
doing
so
this
much,
talk
Rishika.
bit, but thanks for agreeing to do this.
Thanks a
My
lot.
convener for today is again somebody who's an inspiration, Kailash ji. Kailash ji is also a person who's led this entire stream of firsts. So he actually made the first and the biggest aquarium in India. He's built the first ropeway in Rajasthan, and he is an inspiring personality in himself. Starting the webinar, I would not want to waste any more time because we've already, we're running a little late on schedule. But my first question is to Kshitij. Kshitij, I would like you to unmute yourself because I've just muted everybody. So if you could, perfect. So Kshitij, I want to know from you, while I was talking to you, I got to know that you were born in Malkapur and you did your basic primary schooling from Akola. It was only that once you entered BITS that you actually moved to Rajasthan. How is it that a kid from our Banya Marwadi community, whose Dadaji was a farmer and a businessman, and Nanaji was a journalist, and here you are, you dreamt of the stars, you saw galaxies, and you chose this as your career. How did you make it possible?
Thank you so much for that, Rashika. I think there's always been a space bug that I've had. When I was young, my mother got me this book because there was a long train journey and वो sleeper में आ रहे थे तो इसके लिए एक अच्छा सा book लेके दिया था to read and that was I had the choice of picking it up. So this was in Chennai and I picked up Pogo Book of Universe. Basically, I was very young around the time, but there was a lot to see over there, and I started reading about things that made me more and more curious about the topic. Over the course of the next few years, I was just very much into science fiction. I cannot read non-fiction books, so reading science fiction, just listening to stories about how ISRO did things, NASA did things. Again, my mother was a very big fan of the work that ISRO does. So there was always that conversation in the house where, hey, have you seen this? Ye launch hua hai, वगैरह. And just basically looking at missions that beat the kind of work that was possible at that time. Around 1969, we had the first man on moon. We put the Voyager missions so far ahead of the solar system. So there are so many possibilities with space technology, and that is something that has motivated me to actually come and see this business very closely and get the opportunity to work in it. Overall, I would say I did not have an idea that I would end up doing this. It's just something that was a hobby. But around third year of my college, fourth year of my college, I started getting very serious about this. Fourth year, me and my co-founder Aves, we were looking at different problems to solve, and bigger problems like ones in agriculture, pollution monitoring, and all of those. We were looking at solutions to solve those problems. So from a perspective of a problem and looking at what solution you can create for it, we started looking at things that we like to do and how we could basically provide a solution to a problem that we like to work on. So that's basically how I got here.
And so, you told me that, of course, this also came from the fact that, your Nanaji was a journalist and, you were always reading about stuff. Uh, Again, like you said, reading about something is one thing, but, to be inspired to actually pursue this in a country like India, where we know that, it's not, the opportunities are not as great as what you have, say, in a USA, or say in Russia or China. We're still behind in terms of, technology. What made you really, really pursue this with all your heart and soul?
I think when you have more than 1 billion people in a country, you have to fight for what you want. Um, it's There's always been this fear of mediocrity that I've had. It might sound a little blunt, but the way I've looked at things, I have not been satisfied with doing something that has already been done, or with doing something that is just the normal thing daily. And I, I don't think I could have fit myself into a 9 to 5 job for years and years at a stretch. So for me, it was that, along with a passion for building technology that improves lives of people. So there has been this statement about space technology that it takes up a lot of taxpayer money, and it's just some research work that does not have applications. But when you look at the kind of things that we have a mobile phone today, or we have things like a microwave oven, simply because someone decided to put some investment in space technology. We want to make that more direct. We want to use remote sensing
Absolutely.
to bring that in. Yeah.
So, Kshitij, when I actually spoke about having you on board, everybody told me that, a 22-year-old, इसने क्या ही failures या क्या ही struggle देखी होगी, ये तो एक 22 साल का लड़का है, who's already made ripples. But when I started talking to you, I realized it's not the case. And I would like to inform my audience that Kshitij actually appeared for the G's, and he was expecting a rank in the first 1,000. But to his utter disdainment, he did not get the rank that he wanted. He did not score the kind of marks. And here we have with us a boy who, despite that, chose to pursue his dreams. Kshitij, I want to know from you, what was it like at that point in time, when you wanted to get into a particular college and you could not do it and still managed to get into BITS?
Yeah. So while you're right about me not having enough experience of failures, I would say that there have been situations in life where I felt that, okay, this is it, and there's nothing possible after this. It looks like a dead end, and you feel completely dejected. There were many moments, but yeah, JEE was one such moment, because I was expecting to do really good. But there was so much pressure, and I don't do well under pressure, so I just did not do well in the exam. All of my friends who I studied with did pretty well, and I got like a 6,000 something rank, which is very disappointing. So, and I wanted to take aerospace. I couldn't take that. So, yeah, it was a failure at that point, just like many others. But the idea was that what's my next best option? And my next best option was BitSat around that time, like 4 days from JEE. So I just did what I could for BitSat. Thankfully, I got enough marks to get into BITS with a good enough degree. And over that period of 4 years in college and a couple years after that, very short time, there have been cases where I have felt that, nothing's happening after this. This feels like a dead end. The trick is to constantly keep reinventing your way of thinking, and just look at every problem from a lesser, narrow perspective. When you are in the middle of a problem, you just happen to be surrounded by it, and you cannot see a way out. But when you're looking at it from the top, you can see possible solutions or the next best thing that you want to do.
So, my question here comes that, like you said, getting a rank somewhere in your 6,000s when you're expecting to be in the top 1,000, at that point in time, it can feel like your journey has come to an end. And हम यहाँ पर यही failure की बात करने आए हैं. I know so many people who have given their Gs, जिन्हें वो rank नहीं मिला, and eventually they ended up leaving their dreams because they thought कि ये हमसे नहीं हो पाएगा. You know, because we've just fared so badly in that one exam. I want to know from you, is it really all about that one exam? Because you seem to have defied it. You know, you were all right in your G's, you were not really that great. But here you are doing something so extraordinary. So how did that happen? How did you pull yourself from there? Is what I want.
Um, I really don't have a really good answer to that. But what I will say is that after every sort of failure that I've had, even though there haven't been that many and haven't been that extensive, I would say that taking a step back, looking at things in the sense that, hey, this is something I like. Maybe now that I am not spending 100% of my time on doing this thing that I failed in, I can spend my time doing something that I like. And eventually, like for everyone, the goal is to be happy in life, right? And if you're not happy in life, there's nothing matters. So doing things that I like, that is mostly how I got out of situations where I felt that everything was wrong and there was a big bad failure moment.
So I would take this point away from you. What you said was when you met with a failure, you started doing more of what made you happy and stopped focusing as much on the outcome of your exams. So one of, I think, the biggest takeaways from you, I can say for the youth, is that it's okay. Failures आ जा सकते हैं. एक एग्जाम के मार्क्स पर आपकी पूरी जिंदगी डिपेंड नहीं करेगी. But when you do come across a failure, do more of what makes you happy. वही कीजिए जिससे आपको खुशी मिलती है. You never know. उस खुशी से एक राह निकल जाती है, which is what happened with Kshitij. Coming to my next question to you, in continuation of this, I remember you telling me this one statement that you're afraid of mediocrity. You really, you know, you're scared of actually being mediocre. But when you actually went to bits, you were just one amongst the so many. Suddenly ये होता है मैं मेरे स्कूल का शेर हूँ, मैं स्कूल का राजा हूँ, स्कूल में मैं हमेशा टॉपर रहा हूँ, and now I'm here in midst of people जो मेरे जितने नहीं but शायद मुझसे भी ज्यादा ब्रेनी है. And that's the time when reality hits you. It's actually one of the phases where I've seen most of the youth giving up. उन्हें ये लगता है मैं इस लायक हूँ ही नहीं because मेरे आसपास लोग देखो, they're so good at things. Did you go through this moment?
Certainly. So जब बचपन में होते हैं स्कूल में अच्छे नंबर आते हैं तो सब लोग चने के झाड़ पे चढ़ा देते हैं बेसिकली. इसको बहुत कुछ आता है तो बढ़िया है जाके ये बनेगा वो बनेगा. And when you actually start digging into it, you realize that यार जब भी सेकंड रैंक आता था स्कूल में, it was a big failure moment at my home. मातम का माहौल होता था. So उस तरह की अगर अपब्रिंगिंग होती है, so when you go to college, there was already a failure moment with JEE. When I went to BITS, I realized that there were people from all over the country. There were people who were really smart, who did super well. There was just one thing common, that none of us went to the IITs, basically. And people who knew a lot of things, people who had studied a lot of things, people who at the first semester of college who were scoring 10 CGPA. And when I looked at all of them, I realized that, there is nothing that is putting me apart from everyone over there. Even when I looked at personality, right, तो कुछ खासा personality था नहीं उस time, क्योंकि someone is in a band, someone is playing music, someone is very knowledgeable, someone debates.
And you're cool only when you're doing all this, right? मतलब coolness question भी नहीं होता है उसके अलावा.
At 17, you don't know about this.
Exactly.
And I was always looking at ways to just put myself aside from the crowd. So yes, there was definitely that feeling in college as soon as I entered college. Getting away from it was what drove me to do whatever I did in college.
Great. So At that point in time, you did realize that, okay, I'm here, I'm in this pool of people. Of course, we're all non-IITians, so we have something to kind of hold on to with each other. But otherwise, I think we can do something. मतलब उस समय एक एहसास हो गया था कि ठीक है, I might do something good in life. Is where I'm going to break your story and I'm going to go to Krattiika because I want to bring her to the same state as yours now. Krattiika, you were born in Jaipur. You
Yes.
did your schooling in Jaipur. With all the constraints, especially being a girl and in Jaipur, हमारी सोच वहीं जाकर अटक जाती है कि कॉमर्स करना है और साइंस करना है तो उसमें दो फील्ड्स हैं. आप या तो इंजीनियरिंग कर लो या आप मेडिकल कर लो. एंड कॉमर्स करना है वो तो बेस्ट ऑप्शन है. At the most art karna hai. How did you come across industrial product designing? It's something that baffles me that you actually chose a field back then when it was not even as famous, or people didn't know as much about it.
Yeah, definitely, Rishika. So personally, even I did not know about what industrial design was at all. But I was always like brought up listening to the two fields that people can choose from was engineering and medical, definitely. And knowing very little about the two, I always like tried placing myself into the two professions, but I couldn't like fit in how much ever I tried. So I was like, as a child, I was much of an explorer, and I always had a hidden love for making and
But you
breaking
used
things
to,
and
I
inventing
know that you
stupid
used to,
ideas.
I know that you used to administer injections to your grandmom at a very young age. Why did you
Yeah,
not pick up
that was one of the reasons.
medicine?
That was just like fun. I wouldn't do it for a profession. I enjoyed art a lot more than that. I told you, like, I was much of an explorer and always loved breaking and making things and coming up with stupid ideas all the time. But I don't like never knew how people like me could fit into the world and contribute to make the world a better place in any way. I had no idea about it. So when I came across the term product design, I instantly knew that was something that I was really inclined towards. And I went to Manju Auntie straight away, who is the founder of After 12. And then after
I hope
talking to her
she's
and learning
here
more
with
about
us
the term
today.
design,
Yeah, she's here.
yeah, I think she's here.
Yeah,
So
she's
yeah,
here.
after talking to her and
Great.
learning so much from her, I found myself in a happy place, and I finally realized that okay, designers do have a place in this world, and they could definitely contribute to make this world a better place. And the beauty about being a designer is that you can be whosoever you want to be, and that my craziness used to like make me feel sane in this world.
You feel accepted with
So that's how
what
it
you are. With art, that's
exactly.
always the benefit. You
Yeah.
you have the liberty to express who you are without a kind of layering yourself with what the world wants. Having said
Yeah.
that, Kritika, I know it because even I am, I was raised in this entire setup wherein हम लड़कियों को हमेशा बहुत सहेज के रखते हैं. And I know it as a matter of fact, even with auntie. Uh, how did you firstly make the transition from Jaipur to Bangalore is one thing that baffles me. And Bangalore, you were working in Bangalore for quite some time. You moved back to Jaipur. Moving places, learning so much. I know there was a lot of struggle behind it. I want to know
Yeah.
from you, how did you overcome that struggle?
So firstly, making that decision to move to Bangalore was like really big for me. But what I really knew that I did not want to be in Jaipur to like take up my further studies. And so when I spoke to Manju Auntie, I knew about these few colleges that I really wanted to go to, and they had like very limited number of seats. So I moved to Bangalore for my undergraduation to Srishti School of Art and Design. And I eventually got a job there, and I started working as a junior industrial designer. And I ended up living in Bangalore for about 6 to 7 years. But then there again came a time where I was lost again. I just needed a change really badly, a change of scenery, a change in life, or just a change in general. And so I decided to go back to Jaipur and start something all by myself. Like, I do not want to be dependent on someone else. Like, I left Bangalore with a very heavy heart because I know I was leaving a lot behind professionally, personally. And I started
Absolutely.
working in Jaipur. I had a few clients, and so I set up a studio in my tiny room, and I was really excited for it. But so when I started working, the main, like professionally, the change that I saw from Bangalore to Jaipur was, in Bangalore people were well versed of the term industrial design, product design, Like there were other things, but in Jaipur it starts with fashion, and then people are like industrial, maybe no.
डिजाइनर हो मतलब आप या तो कपड़े सिलते होगे या तो आप
Exactly.
इंटीरियर डिजाइनर होंगे. How can, what is product
Yeah.
designing?
Exactly. And in Bangalore, when I was working, I got like for my first product that I made, I got a European Product Design Award for that. My second product was exhibited
I'm going
at
to talk to you
Las
more
Vegas
about it.
CES.
You hold on to
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure.
I'm going to talk to you about
Yeah, yeah.
all your awards because I want to know where these ideas came up from. I would stop you right there. Coming back to
Okay, okay.
Kshitij. Kshitij, I want to know from you, how did you come up with this idea of launching your own satellite? Uh, मतलब मैं ये सोचती हूँ कि as even as somebody who's done electronical engineering, आप at the most ये सोच लोगे कि मैं satellite images पे work कर लूँगा. I will get the feed and work on it. ये कौन सोचता है कि भाई मेरे को तो ये सैटेलाइट की फीड पसंद नहीं है, मैं तो खुद की सैटेलाइट ही लॉन्च करूंगा. I mean, it's such a huge thing to even think of.
Sure. So, always loved space technology, and while trying to find something that different that I should be doing, I stumbled upon this team called Hyperloop India in college. This was building a Hyperloop pod for SpaceX's Hyperloop competition pod prototype, and
So it's true. You do have a certain connection with Elon Musk. So I think somewhere down the line, my prophecy that you are India's Elon Musk may or could come true. Sorry, on a more serious note, I would want to know from you.
yeah, just so I joined the team. I asked a friend if there's something I can do. I just wanted to do anything on the team. So I joined the team as a control systems engineer because that was a subject I got an A in of all the subjects. So I just thought, okay, fine. I like this. I'll do this. And the team did very well. The team built India's first Hyperloop pod prototype. It happened in Bangalore in a span of 2 months. It was all students, raised sponsorship from 2,500 teams all over the world. Only 24 were selected, and Hyperloop India was one of them. So the team went to LA, presented the pod to the SpaceX team, and that was how that competition ended. After that, the friend who had gotten me into the team, Avais Ahmed, so him and I, we were looking at different problems to solve. Both of us huge fans of space technology and wanting to do something towards it. We're looking at different challenges, and one of them was the IBM Watson AI expense. The problem statement of the price said that you have to use AI to solve a world problem on a large scale. So a real world problem on a large scale. Now, how do you solve a real world problem on a large scale? First of all, what are our resources? Where are we? We're in India. What's the biggest problem that India currently has? And that is with food security. Half the country is employed with agriculture, and we wanted to see how we can solve problems around agriculture. When you want to do it at that big a scale, you need satellite data, satellite imagery. So we started looking at different sources of satellite imagery, started working with satellite imagery, and we talked to a lot of people who worked with satellite imagery to solve problems all over the world. We realized that existing data was not good enough to solve problems like predicting crop yield, finding out how much the moisture is in the soil or the leaves, and also looking at crop health, crop diseases. There's a whole lot of problems. I come from Vidarbha, from a family that has a farming background, so I've looked at those, and it just felt that this is something that we need to solve. Um, and somewhere around that, we stumbled on the idea of using small satellites to be able to solve that problem. So that's kind of how we came to this idea.
So it is indeed true then that where you do come from in deciding what to do, because like you said, Vidarbha actually has faced the maximum droughts, and that's one belt of Maharashtra jahan par hamesha issues rahe hain in terms of agriculture, whether it be water, whether it be soil. And so you actually saw that issue and you looked at it as an opportunity, which is again such a good thing to hear. Coming to my next question from there, you face challenges. When you say that I have not faced challenges, Kshitij, I spoke to you for about half an hour yesterday, and I could see that you've overcome so many challenges that at the age of 20, you're being rejected by people to fund your company because it was, they were two 20-year-olds asking for money कि हमें satellite launch करनी है. And of course, कितने investors होंगे जो ये सोचेंगे कि भाई ये 20 साल के दो लड़के हैं, they might actually do something in this space. And how did you, at that point in time, still manage to chase your dream? You went on a rejection spree for about a good 6 months, wherein you were approaching people, and people kept saying that we will look into it later, probably. How did you break through that or cut through this one problem?
Yeah, so around summer of 2018, we just, instead of doing an internship, I had an internship at University of Bologna. I just dropped it and I decided to come with awareness to Bangalore and see what we can work on. Because we had come to Bangalore for Hyperloop, we thought we'll come to Bangalore, we'll raise sponsorship again, and we'll build a satellite in 2 months, send it up, just easy peasy. But it's a much bigger problem. With Hyperloop, there was a big team. There was everything around national pride and this and that. And so people put in money, alumni put in money. But looking at Pixxel, we realized 2 months is not possible. We have to build a solid business case around this, which is why we decided to incorporate it as a company. We got a bunch of our juniors from college as interns, just told them, hey, let's build a satellite. So we got people from college to Bangalore as well. Told them we'll give you an internship. No one's paying you anything, but we'll just make a satellite. So some people did come, and around that summer we started reaching for investments as well, because now we had a company and everything. From July of 2018 to close to November of 2018, there were always no's because something or the other was missing. They could not build enough confidence in the team. They could not build enough confidence in the regulatory framework in India. They could not build enough confidence in the market. They could not build enough confidence in the technology. So for an investor, they see all these risks and they're like, no. We tried to get around all of those. Like the first no is very hard. It does not go well with you. But then you realize that it's a learning opportunity. And then you go from no to no to no to no again and again. And then that whole cycle is how we came across a good, solid business plan. We knew what the questions were going to be. We knew what we had to talk to them about. We knew kiska kya pain point hai, basically, wo pata karna samajh gaya. Or, yeah, so, and then we realized that institutional investments and all are not going to work because they look at the team. They want to see scientists and they want to see people who built companies before, sold companies before. So we went to alumni, college alumni, and luckily people who were just excited to see two juniors, or so to say, and they were excited to see the kind of work that we were trying to do. So they decided to put in money.
Kshitij, like you rightly said, the first no hurts a lot. जब पहली बार आप ना सुनते हो कि नहीं हम आपकी कंपनी में पैसा नहीं डाल सकते हैं, तब आपको did you never think that I want to take up a job and I don't want to do this, because it's too difficult, honestly, to keep listening that आप खाली आखिर में दो बच्चे हो, हम आप में कैसे इतना पैसा invest करें? Why did you not think of taking up a job at that point in time?
So there was definitely skin in the game, but I already had a pre-placement offer from BITS, so I'm not a good person to ask that question to. If nothing would have worked, I would have been at Intel in Bangalore at the moment. My co-founder, however, he had like 100% skin in the game. So seeing him motivated me, and we've tried to support each other as much as possible through the whole cycle. But coming specifically to the point of getting a no, the thing is that you don't just go and present the same thing to someone else. You realize something is wrong. There's been a mistake. And you start going in a corrective spree. So you go ahead, you look at, hey, this needs to be improved, this needs to be improved. We don't have customer validation. We'll go ahead and reach out to all the biggest companies in agriculture and just ask them. We reached out to like 22 replied, great, beautiful. We'll share those screenshots with the investors. So the idea was to constantly keep finding an answer to any question that we could not answer. That is something that we try to do on a daily basis in the company. But yes, at that moment, this was a very significant part of it.
A point very well made. जब आप rejection को फेस करते हो, एक बहुत बड़ी सीख होती है कि शायद मैं कुछ गलत कर रहा हूँ, इसीलिए I'm getting a no. Instead of losing heart, ये सोचने के बजाय कि ये मुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, it's always good to rework. आप अपने प्रोजेक्ट पे, प्रोडक्ट पे रीवर्क करें, think of newer ways to sell your business and idea, and it's only possible when you have 100% belief in your product. That's right, Kshitij, because you told me you had complete belief in what you wanted to do, and सिर्फ ये तभी मुमकिन हो पाता है कि आप अपने ही प्रोडक्ट को अलग एंगल से देख पाएं और उसे अलग एंगल से लोगों के सामने रख पाएं. Having said that, Kshitij, I have so many young people here who want to know what goes into making of a satellite. So quickly, in like a minute and a half, because even I have subscribed to all of SpaceX news, and even I am a space enthusiast. I want to know what goes into making of a satellite.
Sure. There's different types of satellites depending on the applications you want. Communication satellites for your mobile internet now, or things like your television services. And there's Earth imaging satellites for taking image of the Earth and creating value out of it. Like you have China take up some territory in Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, and you can view that using satellite images. So both have both have their own array of applications, and both of them are very different machines. But in the end, it comes to fundamentals that we study in 11th and 12th. It's as simple as knowing what the law of conservation of angular momentum is to be able to move a satellite, because wahan pe you don't have wheels or anything to push it. So it's a machine that's moving at 7.6 kilometers per second. And you have to make sure that it can precision point and take images of the Earth. So basic physics, basic understanding of physics is what goes into making a satellite. When you don't have anything,
you make it sound very easy. And
no, but when you don't have anything to control the satellite, you have to look for ways on how to control it, and you learn to make use of everything around you.
I like, just Kshitij, I think it's been 2 days that I've been talking to you, and I've been of how you describe such complex things with so much ease. The way you just said it, it's just basic fundamentals of physics. And maybe, yes, of course it is that. But it is also, application of what you learn is, what I've
Yes.
seen, whatever you've spoken to me. Great. I would break you there because my next question to you will come back when I get done with Krattiika.
Sure.
Krattiika, I want to know from you. You lived in so many countries, and then you started designing these crazy things. You designed a gym for the space station. For the astronauts. You designed lights for the space station. ये ideas आए कहाँ से? And how did you make it possible?
So these, like the main two projects that I personally really love, they happened when I was doing my master's at Polytechnico. And so the approach to these two projects was so difficult. Like it had so many challenges, because when you're designing for people on the earth, it's much easier to like step into someone's shoe and then look at things from their perspective and then design something, like design a new experience for them. But when you're designing for the astronauts who are constantly living in a cylinder for months altogether, there are so many things you have to keep in mind, like the zero gravity, there's no nature, they're living in a cylinder, they have just one outlet where they can see the earth from, they have 16 sunrise and sunsets in a day, and the difficulty of motion and all of that. So it was extremely like a whole new perspective. It was like understanding a new world for me.
I'm sure, and it's so difficult because you've never been there in person. तो कोई
Yeah.
आपको ये कहेगा कि 16 बार दिन सनराइज या सनसेट हो रहा है, it's very difficult to fathom how it's going to impact you. But it does have a huge impact on your psychological, your entire bodily system. And how much of a challenge was it for you to study all of this?
It was like like 70% of the time we were constantly researching, because every time you design something, you need to understand how the person behaves, like how an astronauts behave in the space and how the surroundings behave according to that. So like there's no comfort of home for them. There's like the environment is very cold, they're surrounded by machines day in day out, So it was like very challenging to step into that atmosphere and understand their perspective. So when we were designing, we had to not only study how they were living there, but also every component and every part of the space station. So we couldn't shift any layout, we couldn't explore new materials. There was like material constraint, then there were technological issues. Also, the main important part was the circadian rhythm, which is the day and night, because of which human body understands when to sleep and when to be awake and all of that. And for that, for the astronauts, it is completely different for them, because 17 sunrise and sunsets, how can you manage? So the design brief was basically to design lights for the International Space Station, but we realized that shadows were what makes the light so beautiful, and that brings the beauty in the day and like the sense of comfort. So, and that's how we like a very different approach we had.
Kritika, you told me you were designing lights that would make astronauts feel at home. और इससे बड़ी बात क्या हो सकती है that people who are right up there in the space station, you are bringing them the comfort of being at home by simply using lights. ये सोच के भी ऐसा लगता है, is it possible? But you actually made it possible. And of course, you've kind of moved over from that barrier of knowing nothing about your circadian rhythm, your body clock, and trying to now use all of that and applying this information. Again, my question comes to this: did staying in so many cities have any impact on your understanding? So you've lived in Bangalore, of course. Before that you were in Jaipur, then you moved to Bangalore, you came back to Jaipur again, now you're in Milan. And I want to know, did that have an impact, interacting with so many people from across the globe?
So the reason, firstly, the reason why I wanted to travel in the first place was because I really like love meeting new people and understanding different perspectives, their cultures, their food, and all of that. But meeting like new people and international people makes you realize that knowing people from different parts of the world can stretch your sense of empathy beyond your own community and the country. And then you realize that everyone is just the same all over the world, and the only thing at the end of the day is what you want is you fight for peace. And that was just one idea that I really love. And I think like meeting so many new people and like different cultures opens your mind so much to different ideas, and you're not living with those constraints anymore.
Kritika, we have a bunch of people here, and there's one thing that I would want you to share, which is the work that you've done for the International Space Station. If you can share that video with all of us, because that really touched me. The way it's designed, the way you've worked on those lights. If you can just share the screen, I've given you the right.
I would love to share that. Yeah. Can you see it?
Yes.
Do you also hear the audio?
Yes. It's so beautiful. It's I mean, Thomas Edison did invent the first bulb. Here you are, Krattiika. You are making that bulb a home away from home. You've given it such a new meaning and perspective. Extremely proud of what you've achieved. Coming back to
Thank
Kshitij
you so
now.
much.
Kshitij, what you've done is nothing short of that. For our audience here, Kshitij and Pixxel, in fact, is the first Indian company, Indian private company to launch their own satellite. And they're going to launch a constellation of satellites in a couple of years. Having said that, Kshitij, both you and Krattiika come from, an industry or a field wherein failures are far more common as compared to any other field. हम रोज देखते हैं failed missions, trial and errors, and it's failure, the word, is more common when it comes to y'all than any other industry put together, or all other industries put together. I want to understand, every time you meet with a failure, or you meet with a project that you put your heart and soul into. Building of a satellite takes a lot. It takes your effort, time, a lot of energy. And after all that, when you realize that ये project शायद fail हो रहा है, how do you come out of that zone every time?
Okay. So we are yet to launch our first satellite. It's going up later this year. So hopefully that doesn't fail. But the thing is that because this industry has seen so many failures, they have learned to build fail-safes. So when we go about our design process, we make sure that we try to eliminate as many chances of failure as possible. Similarly, when you are looking at it from a mission perspective, let's say something fails, you get up and work on the next mission. So the idea is as soon as you have fail-safes or corrective measures, going through failure, like just generic statement, going through failure is your learning process, whatever. But coming to the depth of it, I would say that it definitely is something where you can take a lot of action points from. You can take a step back. You can see, hey, there was some inertia which was taking me towards this direction, and I realized that that is not the right direction. So I changed my direction. I guess it's always about that, just trying to be okay with failure and make sure you don't do the same mistake again, make new mistakes.
Make new mistakes. So I think the takeaway from Kshitij is, even when he's not launched his first satellite, and I hope and we all pray that it's a huge success, Kshitij. But even the phases tell you a lot. Say your phases of the satellite also has obstacles, and like you said, अपनी गलती से सीखो, नई गलतियां करो, पुरानी गलतियां मत दोहराओ. So well put, Kshitij. I asked the same question to you, Krattiika. How do you tackle failures? And I know that, because during our conversation, you told me that there's one particular project you're not very proud of. And what happens when
Yeah.
you're actually, you've built something that you're not very happy with?
So I personally feel that failures are very important, and especially in my profession, we see failures every day because we design for people, and you know how, like, with time, people change, time changes, designs change, and behavior changes. So it's like a whole lot of change that can come the next day you launch your product, or like 20 years after you launch your product. But I think what you do from these failures is always like take something from it. It's always a lesson that you take from every failure that you face in your life. But what matters more is that how you bounce back, how you continue to work on your failure. Like in some of my projects, I remember my design was exhibited somewhere, and the first day was like a complete disaster, and we never saw it happening in a better way in the next 2-3 days, but we worked really hard and it got better. So it's just the lessons that you take from these failures. So I would say you just need to allow yourself to fail often and fail fast so that you succeed faster. And because life is
Wow.
very simple, it
Both of
keeps
you all
giving
have
you too
given me
many
such
chances.
amazing answers. So Kshitij says make new mistakes, and Krattiika says fail often, fail fast.
I mean,
And
don't aim for making a mistake, but just
Yeah, but don't
don't
aim
repeat
to
this.
fail. Because I
I'm
think your
so
efforts
glad
kind of
you'll
give it
echo
back to
the
you.
same sentiment, but having said that, this was a question that I got from the Google form. So I'm going to ask both of you. If I am a person who really is passionate about space, and this was especially to Kshitij, so Kshitij, I would want you to answer this. How can I pursue or chase my dreams in a country like India, wherein the only body which is actively working on.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Something we had to spend a lot of months working around. Um, the regulatory risk that I mentioned is this, where if you want to start a company in India, there's a whole lot of problems that the government creates for you. Um, so there are multiple options here. Uh, if you want to work in the private space industry, start your own company, there are ways where you can be a supplier to ISRO, where you can provide things, where you can start working on technology that you can provide to them. If you want to operate, you probably will have to set up a company outside of India, in the US, Singapore, wherever possible. If you have uh, aims of directly working on technology itself rather than building a business around it, you can apply. If you're a student, you can go to IIST, Indian Institute of Space Technology. This is in Trivandrum, and it's directly affiliated with ISRO. So as soon as you get out of it, you have 3 years of compulsory work at ISRO, and then you can choose to leave or do something else, or just stay at ISRO. Apart from that, it's very difficult to work outside because of citizenship issues. Um, this is very controlled technology. It's very close to defense. So there's still a lot of regulatory control around it. But depending on the application or the type of work that you want to do, there's always a way that you have to find. And yeah, that's basically what I have to add on that side.
That's so great. I always, before I go to the audience for their questions, I always ask my speakers, what's your piece of advice that you give to anybody who's undergoing a failure at this point in time? I'm going to start with you, Kshitij.
Yeah, so it always seems bigger in your head than it actually is. So do try to pause and reflect on what sequence of events led to that particular thing. And as soon as you're done identifying your mistake, you move on to, if there's a way to correct it, you correct it. If there's no way you can correct a mistake, um, you just accept the consequences and look at your next best option. That's that's what I would say to someone who is going through a failure at the moment.
Oh,
Your
nice.
mental health,
Pause
your
and reflect.
happiness. Yeah. So your mental health and your happiness is should be the most important thing to you,
Yeah.
and do what suits it.
So, two things. You said one, pause and reflect. Second, always be responsible for your own mental health and happiness. Do things that keep you in a sane space, which is so important, so important that especially when we've come across a failure, हम अक्सर ये भूल जाते हैं कि we are humans after all, and what we deserve is love, and primarily love from our own selves. So कितना अच्छे से you've spoken about these two things. Kritika, what's your take on this?
I would just say, like, when we fail in life, we just need to reflect on what happened and how we like reached where we were. But I think it's very simple. Like, what we do after the failure is what is more important. So you should always give yourself the permission to fail, but never give yourself the permission to not try again. You should always keep trying again and keep trying very often.
I am so so happy that I have got two such young people here who are so fearless about failure. And both of y'all have said कि fail होइए, जरूर होइए, but उसके बाद हिम्मत मत हारिए. In fact, what you've said is just the same thing. Keep at it. वो काम
Yeah.
करते रहिए. Find better ways to achieve your goals, to achieve what you want. Having said that, I'm going to leave the forum open, and I will take questions from the audience. Uh, but before I get a question from the audience, I would want to ask a very quick question to you, Kshitij. Um, You spoke about mentorship and how that played such a huge role in, your path to where you are today. Say, for any young person in India who's looking to be in this field, how or, what would you suggest in terms of seeking mentorship? Because it's really, really important in your field.
It is like if you don't have formal education to do what you want to do here, it's difficult to actually go ahead and establish yourself. For anyone who just wants to learn, there are a ton of internet resources that you can use to learn. Um, Internet is a beautiful thing if used the right way, and you can basically find resources about how missions are made and how just basic subjects are taught. However, if you do want to establish yourself, like in any business, you have to start building a network um, around what you want to do. For us, it was reaching out to ex-ISRO scientists. So you reach out to ISRO, they will not respond because they're a government agency, you are nothing. But you reach out to an ex-ISRO scientist who's been at ISRO and you talk to them, you say, we're interested in doing this. They are retired, they don't have anything else to do. So they will spend some time with you and talk to you about what you want to do, find out problems in it. So just keep knocking as many doors as you see, and eventually you'll find someone or the other person will open it.
I feel like this message was more, it's hit some part of me. Keep knocking doors till the time somebody actually answers. It's one point I'm going to take with me, that even when it comes to mentorship, keep looking out for people who would be willing to help you. Even if you get no's, don't take it to heart. Approach another person, but make sure you get what you want. Perseverance is the key. Uh, I think we've just got amazing messages from the audience appreciating the two of you. And other than that, pretty much no other question from the forum today. So I would like to say thank you so much to the two of you. I'm going to give Kailashji the vote of thanks, the opportunity to, kind of thank all of us here on the platform today. But from my side to the entire audience, okay, sorry, Arihant has just
Questions
asked a
here.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are the other applications that you're going to explore other than agriculture and defense? Also, after launching all the satellites, are you going to become an analytics company or would you outsource the AI job?
So it's it's very difficult to work with satellite imagery for a lot of people, and what we want to do is make it easy for our customers, no matter who they are. Whether it's a government organization that wants to know what the crop yield was in a certain state, or whether it's a private company that is just serving tea plantations or something like that. So, coming to the sectors, we are looking at agriculture to start with because this is where um, there are people who are already working with satellite imaging. With the kind of data set that we are bringing into picture, we are looking at many more applications. We are looking at applications in energy. We can detect oil and gas leaks in pipelines. We are looking at applications in environment conservation. So, talking about forest fires, tracking forest fires, we're talking about heat waves. We are talking about things like damage because of cyclones and hurricanes. So the applications are limitless when you actually start looking at satellite imaging. When you add other aspects of remote sensing, it just becomes something magnanimous. When you look at um, planes being lost, there was this flight that was lost simply because it could not be tracked. There are ways you can do that using satellite data. So the idea is to start with a sector that already has some input, which is agriculture, and then move on to other sectors as well, open it up as we go. And what else is there? Outsource the AI job? No, we are doing all of it, and also we process our own images. We provide the tools to companies to make it easier for them to just focus on what they want to get out of the imagery and not spend their time and effort and money on processing the data.
Varun has asked a question. What is the future roadmap for both of you after coronavirus has hit? And do you feel it will affect your career trajectories? I like the word. He's used trajectory. It's a very space concept.
The thing is that COVID affected supply chains very strongly. We do all our manufacturing in Chennai, and we cannot go and test the satellite over there. So we have to work with an auxiliary team. People are in their homes. I'm stuck in Bangalore. There are people in the team. Someone is in Pune, someone is in their hometown, somewhere in the country. So we've focused more on design. We've focused more on developing our second mission while our first one is still going on, so that we don't waste this time. We've allocated our time and effort, resources, everything to doing this. We also, over the last 7 months, set up a data processing team just so that we can start building tools even before the satellite images are down. So the idea is to look at ways of utilizing this time as well as we can. As far as it goes for affecting our career trajectories, I would just say about company, because at this point, career is synonymous with company. So in terms of company, we've delayed a few things. We've delayed the first launch by close to 6 months. We've delayed. It was supposed to go in August, by the way. So we delayed the first launch by 6 months. We've delayed a bunch of things on our second launch as well. So it has forced us to look at certain things that we previously took for granted. And overall, it doesn't affect it that much in the long run. But in the short term, yes, there are some issues that we hit, and we had to find solutions to that.
What about you, Krattiika?
For me,
Has it
I'm still doing
impacted
my
your
master's
trajectory?
right now. I was there in India for about 6 months and like doing my distance learning masters from there. But now I'm back in Italy, and I have another 1.5 year of masters left. But after that, I probably want to start on my own. Like I said, that in Jaipur, people still are not aware of the term industrial design and how it can help the world, and people still go like, "Baki sab
Now
theek hai,
they
but tum
will
karti
be.
kya ho?"
Now they
Yeah.
will be. I think this seminar is going to be such an eye opener that ये भी एक career option होता है, and this is actually
Exactly.
quite interesting.
So yeah, that's it. Like after my master's, I'll probably set up my own studio and start like taking up projects and collaborating everywhere I can.
That's so good to hear. Um, on that note, a huge thank you to the two of you for taking time out. And I sincerely hope that 10 years from now, this actually goes on to become one of those viral interviews wherein I'm interviewing two stellars from the space tech space of things, in India. And I sincerely pray that both Kshitij, you and both you and Krattiika, you and Kshitij go on to make big names for yourself. And I can see that happen, because if y'all can achieve what y'all have at this age, I can only just imagine what you are going to achieve at a later date in your life. um, to my entire audience, y'all were fabulous. Thanks for turning up, listening to these two amazing people. Kailash ji, over to you.
Thanks, Kshitij, Krattiika, for insight into your innovations.
Thank you.
You are the true role model for our society. Thanks, Rishika, for wonderful moderation. You appears to be a professional anchor. Thanks to all viewers who have joined us in spite of technical flaws. I must say, winners don't do different things. They do things differently. Please do join us next week or to meet new icons. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Also, my huge thanks to Anita Auntie for always getting together such inspiring people. Anita Auntie, you've actually made me so proud of being a part of this youth wing, because I think we've got such amazing people who are achieving so much in life. And you've made sure that आप एक एक हीरा पता नहीं कहाँ कहाँ से चुन चुन के लाते हो, और ऐसे हीरे निकलते हैं that it makes me proud of being a part of this entire forum. So thank you for once again giving me the opportunity of getting these wonderful people together.
Thank you, Rishika, for inviting me. And really, the forum is known for its wonderful, unique work. हम डायमंड्स चुन चुन के ही ला रहे हैं खंडेलवाल समाज से, और जैसा कि लोगों ने देखा कि हर सेशन में एक से नए नायाब हीरे हमारे समाज में मौजूद हैं, और हमारा प्रयास यही है कि आप सभी लोग एक फोरम के माध्यम से, KDF के माध्यम से एक दूसरे से जुड़ें और हमारे समाज के अपलिफ्टमेंट के लिए वर्क करें। एंड मेरा फाइनली क्षितिज और ऋषिका, क्षितिज और कृतिका दोनों से एक रिक्वेस्ट है कि समाज को जब भी आप लोगों की जरूरत पड़े तो आप लोग इस फोरम के माध्यम से कमिटमेंट करिए कि आप समाज को जहां भी जिन लोगों को आपके मेंटोरशिप की जरूरत होगी हम आपको दोबारा याद करेंगे और आप लोग अपने तहे दिल से ये आज कमिट यहाँ करके जाइए क्षितिज और कृतिका दोनों कि आप समाज को वापस लौटाने में हमेशा मदद करेंगे।
जी हाँ, बिल्कुल।
Definitely.
संडे
आंटी क्षितिज को मैसेज आने लग जाएंगे, हमें अर्थ पे नहीं रहना आफ्टर कोरोना, हमें अपनी सैटेलाइट पे बिठा के ऊपर ले जाइए। या आपने गलत वादा ले लिया है?
नहीं, मैंने
I already have messages on the Google form, by the way, that is Kshitij going to launch a passenger flight. I did not ask it here, but already people are touting him to be the next Elon Musk.
My commitment to both stars कि ये जो भी जितने भी जो क्वेश्चन आएंगे वो थ्रू KDF फोरम के थ्रू आएंगे, तो मेरे थ्रू ही जाएंगे, इसलिए इसमें टेंशन होने की जरूरत नहीं है। So thank you very much, Kshitij. Thank you, Krattiika, and thank you, Rishika, for always such
Thank you.
coordination.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience. आज हमें
Yes, Kshitij, you saying something?
No, I'm just saying thank you so much for arranging this. काफी बढ़िया फोरम है। जितना भी परसेप्शन था पूरे खंडेलवाल कम्युनिटी का, वो बस ये था कि सम्मेलन ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं और बस इसका उसका शादी वादी हो
I am so glad someone spoken out the truth. You're resonating the feeling of this entire youth wing here.
इसीलिए मैं काफी मतलब रिलेटिव्स वगैरह इतना ज्यादा बात नहीं करता हूँ, but this has changed my perception. This is good, and I'm so glad you're hosting this, Rishika, along with our KDF. Thank you so much.
I am so happy you ended it on this note. But to say this, taking it from you, हम सिर्फ सम्मेलन organize नहीं करते. We're here to share good information. We're here to help each other grow and grow in such a brilliant manner that we can actually leave a mark even after we've left this world. And on that note, I will see you all again next Saturday with amazing speakers yet again. Stay safe, everybody, and see you all soon.
Thank you all. Good night.
Bye. Good night.